This conference will now be recorded.
Hey Andy, how are you?
Hey, good afternoon.
I see we had a bunch of people, I guess, in the waiting room. Don, welcome. Bob Wilson's
Hello.
with us. Bob, how are you?
Hey, Luke. This is Bill.
Oh, hey Bill, we got you. Are you in Maryland on the road right now, Bill?
Yeah, I'm at 7,000 feet in the Sierra Nevada.
Oh, well, that's very nice. Now, Bill, be careful if you guys are on the move. We're going to record this. You can watch it later. So, if you're driving or anything, don't worry about kind of leaving the meeting. That's fine.
Okay. Well, thank you. Don't worry. We're being safe. I wanted to be part of the call.
Sounds good. Well, please say hi to Marilyn for us as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
We've
Right.
got a few other folks
Okay.
joining us. Bill Hewitt, good to have you here. Scott Sund, of course. It's great to have you, Scott. Scott, thanks again for helping out William. I know that with this report that he's writing, you're going to be an invaluable resource. So thanks for taking some time to talk with him. Let me know if I can help at all. I'd be happy to do so. Mike Spence joining us. Welcome, Mike. Good to have you here. Julie Stranges is with us as well. Madeline Panaccio, good to have you here. And Tim Hunsberger from Lone Star. Tim, how's the weather out there in Texas? Has it warmed up a little bit?
Yeah, today it's 83 degrees.
So it's
And,
warmed up quite a bit. Okay.
yeah, but tomorrow it's supposed to be a high of 35. So
This is the type of weather where I always get sick when it bounces around back and forth like that. I don't know about you, Tim, but maybe stay inside until the weather decides what it wants to do. Once it stays steady, then you can go back out. Coach Susan is with us. Welcome, Coach, and Marianne Giambrone. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Luke.
Al Wagner is also with us. How you doing, Al?
Hi there.
Good to have you. And Jim Offit is here with us as well.
Yes, mobile for the time being.
That's absolutely fine. Jim, how was your weekend? Did you take any flights anywhere?
I did.
Where did you go?
I went from North Myrtle Beach to Georgetown for a breakfast meeting with something called the South Carolina Breakfast Club, where people have flown into the airport. Somebody feeds us breakfast since 1938.
Wow, sounds nice.
So we probably had about 50 to 60 people show up and at least 20 to 25 airplanes.
Very, very nice.
It's a tough life, but
Flying around for breakfast.
Yeah, somebody has to help the aviation industry, so I've taken that on.
There you go. Yep, that sounds
what do
good.
you got for a bird there?
I have a Beechcraft Sierra. It's called a baby bonanza. It's called a B24R.
Oh, okay.
So I can't see. What's my video showing? I can't see what my webcam on.
No, there's no camera on for you right now.
Well, I'm driving, so I haven't figured that out yet. We got this far.
Okay. Well, Jim, I'm going to tell you the same thing I told Bill Stevens a moment ago. Be careful driving. If you got to hop off the call, just let us know.
No, I'm fine. I just wanted you to see. Oh, wait, here it is. Let's see what happens here if I do that. There we go. How's that?
No picture yet, Jim. Oh, there we go. We got you. Okay.
Okay, so here's my driving companion. Oh, what happened? Lost it. Lose everything?
Yeah, I think we might have lost you for a moment, Jim. But in the meantime, we're being joined by Larry Salter, Jerry St. Germain down in Florida. How are you guys doing? Good to have you here. And Jim Samrad is joining us as well. Welcome, Jim. Jim Offit, we've got you back now. Who's your co-pilot there?
Ginger.
Ginger. Okay. Guiding you by sense of smell, I suppose.
You got it.
Okay, good. And of course, John Kaskin is joining us. John, good to have you here with us. And folks, as usual, we'll give everyone just a few more minutes to join us before we go ahead and get started. Ron Brooks is
You
joining us.
guys have
Welcome.
huge feedback, so I'm going to disconnect and try again.
Okay, I'm sorry, was that Larry Salter?
Yeah, it was. I'm having some really bad feedback, so I'm going to.
Okay, yeah,
So
if
now
you
it's
disconnect,
okay.
yeah, you're kind of coming in and out. If you disconnect and come back in, I'm sure you'll get back in before we start. We're going to wait a couple minutes.
Hey, Luke, this is Marilyn, and I wanted you to know that I'm tuning up as long as I can.
Marilyn, I couldn't hear everything. Could you repeat that again?
I just wanted you to know that I'm sitting on as long as I can, and I wish everybody well.
Oh,
And
well, thank you.
I know that
So, Marilyn, we're losing you a little bit. Just so you know, you're breaking up a little bit, but I know that everyone here wishes you well also. I already told Bill, be careful while you're on the road and talking on the phone. I mean, you guys are two young, crazy kids, so you do what you're going to do.
actually, Bill is sitting safe and sound while it's snowing. He's in the car. I'm in the car with him, but I'm going to be leaving soon. So.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll be sure to tune in on the tape.
That sounds fine, Marilyn. When it comes to this hill surge, you're a veteran, so I mean.
I know we have a lot of things on the plate, but this might be the easiest time for our ask.
I would agree with that.
We're going to be asking for a lot, and I just feel that we're going to get it.
It seems that way. I mean, for the first time, sometimes it takes, some dangerous situations to get people to start talking to each other. For the first time, we're seeing real bipartisan agreement on Capitol Hill.
Oh.
Obviously, with the world becoming less stable by the day, I think the defense and particularly the maritime forces are going to see a lot of support. And, I think we will benefit from that. You're right.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, say hello to everybody if they're still signing on. Thank you, Luke. Thank you so much.
Of course, Marilyn. Thank you for joining us. And we've got a few additional folks joining us. Lou Liotti from New York. Lou, welcome. We've got Chris Schutzenberger, one of our newer RVPs. Chris, thanks for joining us. Dave Livingston out in Hawaii. Good to have you here, Dave. How's everything going, Dave? I don't want to put your personal life on blast, but how are you feeling? You doing okay?
Yeah, I got a new hip and it works great. I went diving 110 feet on Sunday and everything worked fine.
Very nice. So I'm glad to hear that. But I'll tell you something. I think that in Hawaii, everything just recovers faster. I mean, everybody, I think it just has these healing powers. I think we've also got Ed Krepich joining us. Hey, Ed, I saw you in the chat. Don't have a microphone. That's absolutely fine. Ed and I did a bunch of these calls with members of Congress last year. So Ed, you're already up to speed on all this stuff. So thanks for tuning in, but I know you're already an expert on a lot. And let's see. Well, Jim Offit, if you are ready for us to go ahead and get started, I think we can. I think we've got most of the folks on. Janet Snyder's joining us. So Jim, I'll hand it over to you if you want.
Go ahead. I'm still transitioning here.
Okay, that's fine. So Jim and Ginger are just kind of finishing up their journey. Okay, folks. Well, as you know, there are a couple things that we wanted to go over today. First and foremost is the postponement of the Hill surge. Now, all of you, I believe, received our emails going over our reasons for this. I want to take a moment just to go over those again, because I know that when things seem a little bit unpredictable, or when you're gearing up for something and then you feel like maybe you had the rug pulled out from underneath you, it can be very demoralizing. It can really take away from your motivation. And if that's the case for anyone on this call, then I sincerely apologize. But I want to tell you again why we feel it's so important just to push this back just for a little bit of time. First of all, the upcoming budget is going to be absolutely critical to the sea services moving forward. Inflation has taken quite a toll on a number of government programs. We're not getting the full value for the dollar that we had hoped. And as we go into our next budget, there's going to be a question of where that money is really going to go to try and overcome the impacts of inflation. There is the concern that the amount of money dedicated to defense spending will not cover that shortfall that's being caused by this 6.5, 7% inflation rate. I mean, this is really an incredible rate of inflation. So the Defense Department, while we did get the type of budget we were hoping for last year, those dollars aren't going as far. And so we're going to see shortfalls in a number of programs. We need to make sure that our sea services have every dollar that they need, because, this brings me to my next point, as everyone is aware, this is a very perilous time in the world. What we're seeing in Europe is the potential for the largest ground war in Europe since World War II. If the situation in Ukraine deteriorates further, and it is quite possible, if not likely, that it will deteriorate further. As we all know, the situation is not only concerning for folks in Europe and in former Soviet satellite states, such as the Baltic states. As most folks will tell you, China is looking at what's happening and seeing that there is a playbook that they can follow when it comes to the situation with Taiwan. If Russia is allowed to forcibly reintegrate these former Soviet satellite states into the Russian Federation, the fear is that China will take the same path towards forcibly reintegrating Taiwan. So quite frankly, this is a very, very perilous time. I mean, for someone in my generation, I don't know if there's ever been a more dangerous time in terms of global events. So I say all of this to make clear that when we go to the Hill with our asks this time, this is not just an introductory discussion. This is not just, hey, it would be nice if the sea services had X, Y, and Z. We need to know down to the dollar amount, what do we need to ensure that we are prepared for potential conflict in the Atlantic and the Pacific. And in order to make sure we have the most specific asks possible, we need to wait for just a little bit more information. One piece of information is the next president's budget. As I mentioned a moment ago, there's a fear that the Defense Department is going to take the brunt of some of the impacts of inflation and things of that nature. We will know much more about that when that president's budget drops. We'll have a much better idea of how much emphasis is going to be placed on defense spending and things of that nature. Another thing that's coming out is the Marine Corps' study on amphibious vessels. This is very, very important. I can't say for certain that amphibious vessels will be the top ask that we have for the Marine Corps. It certainly seems like it's in the running, but there might be some other things. But the Marine Corps is going to, within the next 30 to 45 days, they're expected to put out a study that says exactly how many amphibious vessels they are going to need to conduct operations in the Pacific. That is going to be invaluable to have that document and be able to cite it and source it when we are sitting down and speaking with folks on Capitol Hill. One other thing I'll mention, something that just happened within the last several days, which already puts a little bit more emphasis on what we're trying to do. CNO Gilday stated clearly the type of force structure he's looking for as we move forward, stating that he is looking to attain that 500 ship Navy. I'm sorry, Jim, is that you? Oh, sorry, I thought I heard someone cutting in. And Jim Offit, I'm going to hand it back to you in just a moment, but I just want to make this clear. So the CNO is making very, very clear what he sees as the force that we're going to need over the next several decades. And he has even broken it down into the number of aircraft carriers, amphibious vessels, frigates, destroyers, unmanned vessels, all these types of things. So this is going to give us a lot more valuable information when we go to the Hill. If we had started our Hill surge, let's say a week ago, we wouldn't even have this latest quote and this latest information coming from the CNO's office. So the bottom line is, by just waiting a couple more weeks, we are actually going to have so much more firepower when we go up there on the Hill. We're going to have much more specific asks. We're going to know why we are asking for those things, because it's going to come straight from the Sea Services, straight from their unfunded priorities list and things of that nature. So again, I apologize very much. I know that we were right on the cusp of launching this Hill surge. We were just about to get underway. And then, we kind of pulled a 180 on you folks. And, I do apologize for that. But I hope you all understand that when we go to the Hill this time, it is absolutely critical that we not only know exactly what we're asking for, but that we push those asks across the finish line. Because right now is the time to make sure we have the maritime forces necessary to keep America safe. With all that being said, I'm sorry, I know I can get long-winded. Jim Moffitt, I'll hand it back over to you.
Jim may be off the call. I think he was having some technical issues.
Okay. Rich, I appreciate that. So we can certainly move on to the next items on the agenda, but first I will pause and see if we have any questions or comments related to the postponement of the Hill surge. I'll mention, and Lou, I see you have a question. I'll just mention very quickly, the new timeline that we are looking at is starting the Monday after Sea Air Space, so that's Monday, April 11th. One of the big things we want to do today is if anybody has anything that you want to ask or say, now's certainly the time to do it. Lou Liotti, I'm sorry, I've been holding you up. Please go ahead.
Luke, as I understood it, the session we were supposed to be doing coming up, which has now been postponed, that's the session that a lot of it was going to be virtual. And the in-person fly-in was supposed to be come fall. Is that my correct understanding?
So in terms of an in-person fly-in, that's something that's still being discussed here at headquarters, potentially in conjunction with the release of the maritime policy statement. And I'll just mention this very quick. This is a whole another topic, and maybe we can dig into it a little bit more during our next meeting. But Lou, I'm actually glad you brought this up. So the maritime policy statement is intended to come out in conjunction with the seating of the new Congress. It's a 2-year plan that basically says, listen, Congress, if you really want strong maritime forces, this is everything you need to do over the next 2 years that you are in office. So what better time to be there on the Hill, knocking on doors and meeting a lot of new members of Congress than right then when we have that release event, that launch event for the maritime policy statement. Now, that's still something we're discussing a little bit here. Of course, it has to do with budgetary considerations and things of that nature, but that's something that is in discussion in terms of the next actual physical fly-in, which we are really excited about doing and hoping to do maybe as early as next January. For this Hill surge, which again we intend to start Monday, April 11th, the intent is still to do a virtual event, to continue doing virtual meetings. And in fact, that might be the best we can hope for, because as we mentioned before, we're going to start getting into campaign season very soon here. In fact, you could say we're already in it. A lot of members of Congress are not going to be in their offices. If you have a chance to meet them, it's going to be briefly at some event or maybe get a chance to ask them one question. I think the best opportunity for us to actually get 15 to 30 minutes of FaceTime with these folks is going to be virtually. So I'll mention that. And Lou, I don't know if I answered your question.
No, I will defer to the more experienced people here on this call, but I was thinking perhaps if we pushed it back maybe to May, June, and then did an in-person. But I see the reasons that you've discussed. I mean, and I'm involved with the maritime policy statement, as you know. So, I mean, I just was throwing it out there as a basis of discussion. But if it's going to complicate things, then I'll just shut my mouth. But I was just wondering, maybe if we did a hybrid time, maybe let's say June, and then did an in-person. But like I said, I'll just leave it there and I'll shut up.
Well, Lou, no, we always love to hear these ideas and these comments, so please don't ever hesitate to share them with us. The one thing I will mention is that One of the reasons the fly-in might be nice with the maritime policy statement is we have the event right there on Capitol Hill. We knock on doors after that. It's really fitting for a one-day type of event. With the Hill Surge, bringing folks in for one day for a fly-in, that, schedules change constantly. This member of Congress sets something up with you at 9 a.m., but now they got to go to a vote and all these things keep happening. Next thing you know, you don't get all the meetings that you're hoping for. Frankly, the way we did it last year, doing it virtually, we got so many great meetings that I think that's really the most beneficial way to do it moving forward. The in-person, physical fly-in, I think that would be better just to give out that maritime policy statement, say hi to some new members of Congress who just got elected and stuff like that. I feel like that would be perfect for that one-day thing. For the Hill Surge, I think having a couple weeks of these virtual meetings might be best. And Jim Offit and John Kaskin, if you have any thoughts here, please.
I do. For all the reasons that Luke just mentioned, the one additional one is the Hill still really hasn't opened yet. I mean, they got a whole new rules about getting in there and being escorted and all that kind of stuff. So you just can't walk in through the Horseshoe or the Senate office building and do anything. But that doesn't. The fact that we post, so I think that's saying we're going to pretty much do all virtual this year, unless the national team can get them for face-to-face meeting with the Big Four, as we're calling it, or the Big Eight, something like that. So if John wants to comment on that. But the other thing that we haven't covered yet relative to the timing is, with us starting just after Sea Air Space, I would like to see you begin to start making contact with folks in March and setting up meetings in April. We will have most of the material to you that you will need, but scheduling is more important. And quite frankly, when you go through the scheduling thing, you set up the scheduling and you get a date. Hopefully it would be after April 11th. But then I think if you could mention to the scheduler the Sea Air Space and put that on the congressman's calendar, since my guess is they will be in session that time frame. That's one of the reasons why Sea Air Space is being held where it is. So we've already had one person who was out talking to a congressman for some other reason and got him to commit to coming to Sea Air Space. So even though you live out in the far corners of the U.S., most of your congressmen are in Washington, D.C. So bringing up the Sea Air Space during March and seeing if any of them can put it on their calendar would be great. And same, if you happen to talk to a staffer, that would be great too. We'll have a special program at Sea Air Space for staffers. So if you get some of them to commit, let us know and we'll follow up. So that's where we are there relative to that. John, anything? Kaskin?
No, John doesn't.
No, that covers it.
Okay, so national team meeting, over to either John or Luke.
Well, I'll just mention very quickly on that note, one thing that we wanted to make sure that other RVPs were tracking. So every year we have our national team, that's the president, which this year, of course, is President Riley, CEO Stevens, and John Kaskin, take meetings with a few of kind of the top echelon members of Congress. This year, we're going to do it a little bit differently. Rather than going after kind of the Big Four, the chair and ranking members of the Senate Armed Services Committee, House Armed Services Committee, CEO Stevens and President Riley are very, very busy these days. I'm sure you know, Center for Maritime Strategy, doing a lot of work in the field, all these different kinds of things. So what they were looking to do is just take a couple meetings with some of the members of Congress that we already have the strongest relationships with, just to kind of thank them and keep those relationships going. So the Big Four this time around would be Senator Wicker, Congresswoman Loria. In fact, let me double check. Make sure I'm getting the right names here. Congresswoman Loria, Congressman Courtney, and Congressman Whitman. These are kind of the usual suspects when it comes to some of our go-to allies on the Hill. And so the idea was just that they would take a meeting with them. First of all, these folks are tracking everything that we're talking about already. They don't really need a lecture. We can touch on our asks, but these are some of the most in touch folks.
Luke, Luke, don't forget Congressman Garamendi.
So Congressman Garamendi, now we had to make some really, really tough calls because, again, President Riley, CEO Stevens, they have very, very limited time. And so we wanted to just get 4 meetings on the books for them. Congressman Garamendi is an enormous ally for us, especially when it comes to things related to merchant marine, to the shipping industry and things of that nature. That being said, Navy League and Congressman Garamendi's office haven't worked together on as many events and things of that nature as some of the other offices I just mentioned. Bill, I don't disagree at all that Congressman Garamendi is a huge ally of ours. But in terms of those 4 meetings, like, you can ask John Kaskin. We really sat down and had to think long and hard about who these guys would meet with. And unfortunately, Congressman Garamendi, well, let me put it this way, Bill, you'll have the joy of speaking with Congressman Garamendi.
No, actually, this is Jim. I think Garamendi is important enough that we can put a special team. There's some people who maybe aren't on our national list, but let's call them, national list -1 or A+. And we ought to make sure, particularly with Garamendi, that we have people who are very knowledgeable in the areas that he wants to talk about, which means John Kaskin's got to be on that call, and whoever our Coast Guard expert is needs to be on that call. Keep Garamendi happy. The fact he's talking to a national vice president and our Coast Guard rep. So that's what we do for some of those other folks. We'll tailor the team to make sure we have somebody who is knowledgeable about the legislation that they write. So Bill, it'll work out okay.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, please, we'll just coordinate with my schedule and I'll be glad to participate, or even brief if necessary.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me just say something about district profiles. Again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. I hope that even though we're not going to start making appointments, having appointments till April 11th, I hope that in March you begin to look through the district profiles and start setting up appointments and asking for the April timeframe, mid-April and on. You'll have a better chance of nailing down the timeframe if you're talking a month out, I think. Particularly if you're getting a staff member, and then it's just hit or miss with a member of Congress as to whether or not they're available in there. But nailing down the legislative affairs or chief of staff, or getting it on the congressman's or senator's schedule, a month in advance, which is about when they started doing scheduling, you might actually have a chance to, and then what happens in the members of Congress is they get multiple things on their schedule at the same time, and then the week before or the day before they decide which one they're going to do, and then they parcel the rest out to staff. So I do hope that you will begin the scheduling process in March, which is a week away, and see what we can do there. So we're not having we're not going to check on you, but we will get out the information that shows about appointments, and as you get appointments, we want you to go ahead and fill in the information.
Right. Good. Yes, exactly.
We'll go over that shortly. Go ahead.
Great.
Jim, if you don't mind, I wanted to share my screen just for a moment and show folks the district profiles that we have been putting together. Let me go ahead and share. First of all, let me mention that these profiles are all going to be right here. This is navyleague.quorum.us. We really want to make this kind of one-stop shopping for everything that you need for the Hill Surge. So navyleague.quorum.us. If you go right here to the top where it says My Officials, I'm going to go ahead and click on that. This is what the page is going to look like. And all we're doing now is linking the relevant district profiles to the name. So all of these will be links that you can click on. So if you are in Empire region and you want the district profile for Senator Blumenthal, you would click here. I'm going to scroll down. If you are in Florida region, Jerry St. Germain, you want to click on Senator Rubio's profile here, or Representative Mike Waltz. It's all here. And it's all by profile or by region, and the regions are just in alphabetical order. So next up is Great Lakes. You can see the different states here: Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin, etc. So this is where all of those profiles are going to be. And let me just give you an idea of what the profiles look like. So we have them all completed already. As I mentioned, we're just kind of linking them. This is the profile for Senator Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin. At the top here, you have this full bio for the member of Congress. Below that are custom statistics, number of Navy League members. We have this by district and by state. For the senators, it's actually by state, but we were actually able to break this down by district. So if you look up a House member, you'll be able to see how many Navy League members are in that district. Number of military or civilians involved in military industrial activities in that state. We have that number as well, so you can pass that information along. Did you know that in terms of kind of the military industrial base, you have X number of folks that are working in this field? Defense dollars received by state, also there. And then we were even able to get defense dollars spent on Navy and Marine Corps projects in the state. Right here in Wisconsin, you can see $3.5 billion spent on projects related to Navy and Marine Corps. And then of course we have Coast Guard installations, Navy installations, Marine Corps, and if there is a Merchant Marine Academy in this state, all of that information is included as well. Relevant caucuses, more for House members, so you're not going to see that here for Senator Baldwin. The committees and subcommittees that Senator Baldwin sits on, and then relevant legislation that she has signed on to or co-sponsored. In this case, here is the Congressional Gold Medal for Merchant Marine World War II veterans. That's a bill that we supported about 2 years ago, and so she signed on to that. Other relevant bills will be listed here as well. So this is what each district profile is going to look like. And again, you're going to find all of them in one easy place right here, the My Officials tab on the Quorum Action Center, which again is navyleague.quorum.us. And I think we have one comment from Scott. Yeah, so Scott, this is a good question. Now, in terms of where these folks are going to be, again, with campaign season and everything, they're still going to be active. We will be able to continue setting up appointments with them, virtual appointments, and in some cases it'll be with staff. That's fine as well. But yeah, just in the interest of not pushing it back too far. Now, again, as Jim mentioned, if folks are starting to set up their appointments in March, what you might find is that some of these offices are going to say, well, you know, let's set it up at the end of April, you know, because we've got XYZ going on at the district level during those 2 weeks in mid-April. That's fine if that's the case. Again, we've got several weeks to do all of these meetings, but I think we will find that a number of members of Congress are going to be available. They are going to be, you know, showing up to work in their office and district office, whatever the case may be, and so they might be able to still take those meetings. And worst case scenario, meeting with staff is not a bad thing either. We just don't want to push this back too far. I hope that answered your question, Scott. If it didn't, please go ahead and let me know. Okay, if not, I'm going to stop sharing my screen at this point, and I'll hand it back over to Jim.
Let's see. I have to admit that I just went into Quorum and I'm into the council thing, and I'm on an iPad, but it isn't working very well, so I'll have to work on that. But that was what I was looking at right now. I was trying to follow you.
Okay. If there are any issues, let me know, because obviously folks are going to be using their iPads for this. So Jim, let's you and I kind of troubleshoot it a little bit, but if that's an issue on the iPad, we'll work it out. You know, we'll figure out what the issue is.
Okay, so back to the agenda, which I don't have up. Was that it? Did you have any?
There was just one final item here, and it has to do with the council fact sheet. And I'm going to call out Scott Sun because he did a fantastic job. Scott, this is your fault for overachieving. I'm going to call you out. Once again, I'll share my screen very quickly just to show you the council fact sheet is a great thing to leave behind. This is something that Don Giles had pointed out during one of our meetings, and I think he's absolutely right. A council fact sheet is just this quick one pager that a member of Congress or their staff can look at and see some fantastic information about the Navy League, particularly what the Navy League is doing in their district or in their state. I mean, that's very important for them to know. This is the fact sheet that Scott Sun put together. It looks much nicer than the fact sheet we have up right now. And in fact, I think what we'll probably do is steal this from Scott and put this up on the site, taking out the specific information so that you folks can kind of change it as you see fit. But I think this is absolutely fantastic. And what I would advise folks to do is just create your own council fact sheet like this, using some of the same information here that Scott has used. And then when you send your follow-up email after a meeting saying thank you for your time and that kind of generic information, just attach this as well. Say, listen, just so you know, this is the information about our council operating in your district or in your state. This is for your benefit. And I just can't tell you enough how excellent I think this looks. And we'll try and have this up on the website this week. That's it. And thanks, Scott.
Real quick, is that by state or by district?
So from what Scott has, he has both actually, which is fantastic. Under membership by congressional district, he actually starts off with state of Virginia. So first is the state level. In this case, there's about 2,700 Navy League members in the state of Virginia. And then since Scott is with the NOVA Council, Northern Virginia, he's got Virginia's 8th district, which has about 200 members, Virginia's 10th district, which has also about 200 members, and Virginia's 11th district, which has about 270 members. So he has those things up. For a lot of councils, I think it'll be a little bit easier than that. It'll probably just be one district. And so you could put the state level number in and then maybe just the district number below that. So just those two pieces of information.
Hey, Luke, this is Scott. For everybody, just for your own edification, the reason I did it the way I did it is I used the template that Luke had provided to us. And then when I filled out the questions on the template, I found out I had a lot of, at least for NOVA, we had a lot of things where we said none. And when you get like 20 seconds with a staffer or a mock, the first thing they want to know is how many constituents do they have to worry about, and then are they going to be speaking to one of the constituents during that virtual or meeting. And the last thing I would think is I'd want to put information that says a whole bunch of none at the bottom of it. And so I just removed that. And when I did that, at least for just NOVA, I had a lot of white space left over. And I figured, well, I don't want to give up an opportunity not to plug something one more time from what the Navy League is advocating. So I just grabbed what the main advocacy issues are, and I just copied them there at the bottom. That's all I did. I mean, each council is going to have their own unique portion of it, and I just organized it that way. And Luke also said, well, if you're going to do a scholarship, you definitely want to do that because every congressman is always interested in education of young people. So those kind of things that grab their attention really, really quick. Think of it as if a guy only had 20 seconds to look at one sheet of paper, what would you want them to take away with it? And what do I want to grab their eyes right away with? And the reason I put the state as well as the district is I want to be able to use the fact sheet. If I get a chance to talk to a senator, he's not as interested about the districts as he is from the state perspective. And that's all I have. That's all.
Scott,
Hey, Scott.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Scott, this is Rich Berkowitz in Seattle. Did you include Sea Cadet program? Do you have one out there?
No, we don't. We don't have a issue there, but that would be one of those programs you would definitely want to add that in there. The only thing we have is a scholarship program. And then we also do a lot of Sailor of the Quarter, Sailor of the Year stuff to the organizations that we sponsor, the military organizations. So I didn't want to put no and just say none for Sea Cadet. I'm just not going to bring it up because it's not unique to the NOVA Council. Over.
Rich, I would mention that I did reach out to the folks over there at Sea Cadets. They unfortunately don't have that information broken down necessarily by district. By state, we could get number of Sea Cadets. I'd like to get a little more specific than that, get it more specific to council. So that's something that we're just still working on. Did somebody have something to add to that? Okay, and Scott, I wanted to mention also, as Scott said at the bottom, what he did was replace some of those categories where the answer was none with just our asks, because why not just one more time to get a look at the ask. But the way that Scott actually labeled it looks great, because what it says is essentially, in addition to all these things that we're doing, the council has advocated for and put in these other things. So it feels like this action item, it feels like it's telling you what the council is doing, you know, in terms of their legislative program. Really what it's doing is just once again telling you what the asks are. But by saying, you know, council advocated for, makes it sound like in addition to all these other activities, this is a big thing that we're doing. And I like the way that looks too. So Jim, that was everything we had on the agenda, but of course we wanted to leave time for questions and things of that nature.
Yeah, so any questions or other comments from people? Suggestions, things that you've done in the past? You know, we're really, in my estimation, let's just say we're 10 days away from starting the scheduling. And so it's important to start to thinking about the scheduling, looking at the district profiles, getting the scheduling number down. I don't know if there's a chance, but you know, people hop around a lot on the Hill, so you may have a scheduling number, but the name you have there may not be right. So, you know, when you call in the scheduling number, you want to make sure you get the right person in the email on the House side, because it's tuned to a person. On the Senate side, the email is tuned to the office. So unless the House changes, they're harder to get hold of for that scheduling thing. So how about any other war stories from people who have scheduling stuff? All right.
This is Al Wagner. Just a question. Is there at one point I thought we were talking about a priority list of who to try to contact. Is that still the case?
Yes, that is absolutely the case. Al, you're in Lone Star, correct?
Yes, Dallas Council.
I believe your RVP, Tim Hunsberger, has that information. Tim, if you don't, just let me know. Every RVP at this point should have, and if they don't have it, then that's our fault, but should have a spreadsheet that breaks the members of Congress down into tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. So you know the priorities. Get those tier 1 folks, go after them as best you can. Tier 2, try and knock them out if you can. And tier 3, if you don't have the time, don't worry about them, because some regions have a whole lot of people. There's a bunch of tier 3. If you don't have the time, so be it.
Yeah, Al, I'll get that to you. I have the spreadsheets. I've got a couple things on there. I'll get that out to you.
Thank you.
Hey, Luke,
also,
this is Don. You
yeah,
might
I'm sorry,
want
Don.
to mention, I was just going to say, stress the training next Monday, since that's the last one before we get into March. We need to encourage as many of our constituent participants to attend that one. Those that are going to be involved on the teams for briefing.
I agree. So one of the things that we're trying to do a little bit better this year from last year, as Don pointed out, is having some constituents on the calls. So if your councils or your regions have seen some interest from some folks that didn't participate last time that would like to be on the calls, it would be great to have them tune in for the training this coming Monday. We will have one more training before April, since this is getting pushed back again. We will have that training at the end of March. And I wanted to mention very quickly to add on to what Al Wagner said a moment ago, because this is being pushed back. I mean, again, that's unfortunate, and maybe it'll cut into the time frame a little bit. But again, that focuses on tier 1 and tier 2 folks, and that's pretty reasonable. If you look at, I don't know if there's any region that has more than, maybe a dozen or so folks. Well, a dozen to 2 dozen of these tier 1, tier 2. It's not a huge number. Tier 3 is going to be a whole bunch of people. If you have time, that's wonderful. But if not, the tier 1, tier 2, we can knock them out at the end of April and going into May. So if we focus on them, I think we can get our asks in front of the most important people and then get them pushed forward.
Okay, anybody else have any comments or questions for the meeting? Okay, so looking even further ahead into June, for those that are thinking about attending the national meeting or national convention, the Legislative Affairs has been scheduled for June 9th in the afternoon. So if you're going to come and be there, and you're interested in legislative affairs, the evening of the 8th is kind of the kickoff, although the President's Council, for those of you who are council presidents, would like to see you show up and go through the President's track of stuff that they put together a great training program for that. A lot of different people will be there talking about their own experiences. And then on the evening of the 8th is the welcome aboard. And then the meetings start on the 9th with legislative affairs in the afternoon of the 9th. So if you're coming there, then you only have a few days to spend, then come and join us on the 8th and 9th, and then it goes. Okay, if we have nothing else, any no questions or comments?
Jim, I would just mention again, thanks everyone for being so flexible. Again, do apologize for the delay, but like I said, I think we're going to have some much better asks, much more specific once we see that president's budget and get a little bit more information. So thank you all so much for joining. And in case I didn't get them, Sink, thanks for joining. Susan Mayfield, thanks for joining us. And everyone else, I hope I caught everybody. We had a pretty good turnout today, so I might have missed.
Yeah, we did. And so also remember, once we go through Sea Air Space, we will hear the chiefs of the services talk. We will get a lot of other high-level people, and we will capture that note. And I believe that we will get some information in there that might not be one of the top 3 asks, or it may come out of there, but we'll get a lot of information out of that for backup information, and we'll try to correlate some of that might be relative to legislative affairs and get out a kind of a backup fact sheet from some of those panels that are going on, but in particularly the service chiefs panel and the legislative affairs panel with the 2 congressmen who are our best buddies. So that's another advantage to having it just after Sea Air Space. Okay. Thank you all very much. We'll see you Monday for training. Have a happy belated President's Day or whatever it is. Hope you had a happy President's Day.
Have a great week, everyone. Take care.
You well.
North Carolina. Okay, Bill Stevens in Maryland signing off. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Take care, Bill in Maryland. Have fun.
And,
Oh, yeah. Thank
Luke,
you.
I'll talk to you, I guess, Thursday morning.
Okay,
Thursday
Luke.
afternoon
Sounds good.
at 1.
Sounds good.
You be well. Stay safe.
You too. Take care, Lou.